Hello students, welcome to Veda Gate Academy. Myself Shivram, completed MTech from IIT Bombay. I used to take electrical machines. Now, we are going to start with the subject of electrical machines. The weightage of this subject in the GATE exam is every year we can expect on an average of 12 marks to 16 marks. And basically we are going to focus on 4 machines. One is transformers, and the second one is induction machines, and third one is DC machines, and fourth one is synchronous machines. These are the 4 machines where we are going to focus in GATE syllabus. Even you will have special machines which are there in engineering services. We are not going to focus at this level. Now, first we are going to start with the transformers, and if you see transformers, basically the weightage of this particular topic in GATE exam, the weightage of this particular subject in the GATE exam is on an average every year we are going to get 3 marks to 4 marks in GATE. Whereas those who are preparing for engineering services exams, the weightage is in stage 1, that means in the prelims exam, on an average we are going to expect 2 questions to 3 questions from transformers, and in stage 2, that means in the mains exam, which is a descriptive exam, we are going to expect 30 marks to 40 marks. And coming to the course plan of these transformers, we are going to first study about the basics of magnetic circuits, and after that we are going to study about single phase transformers. In this single phase transformer we are going to study about the construction and operation of a single phase transformer, and in that operation we will study under no load as well as loaded condition, both for ideal and practical cases, and followed by we will study what are the different losses in that single phase transformer and how to determine those losses with the help of standard tests. And after that we will try to see what are the performance characteristics of a single phase transformer. That means we will try to discuss about the efficiency and voltage regulation. And after that we are going to study about 3 phase transformers. Okay, in these 3 phase transformers majorly we are going to focus on different types of 3 phase transformer connections. And finally we are going to see the parallel operation of transformers, and followed by the application of a transformer, which is nothing but auto transformers. So this is the basic study flow or course plan of transformers. Now, before going to start with the basics of magnetic circuits, first we will try to see what is meant by an electrical generator. Now, if you are starting with what is meant by an electrical generator. So what is meant by an electrical generator? I can say a generator is an electrical machine which is used to convert a mechanical energy, given mechanical energy, into its equivalent electrical form of energy. So that is nothing but a generator. So I can say generator is simply an electromechanical energy conversion device. Now, what is the medium which is used to helpful to convert this mechanical form of energy into electrical form of energy? I can say the medium which is useful to convert this mechanical form of energy into electrical form of energy is magnetic medium or magnetic field. Okay, without magnetic field, I can say converting mechanical form of energy into electrical form of energy in bulk amounts is not possible. Now, once if you understand what is meant by an electrical generator, now we will try to see what is the basic principle of operation of this electrical generator. We can say that the basic principle of operation of electrical generator is based on Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. What is Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction? Now, according to this, whenever a conductor is moving inside a time invariant magnetic field, then the conductor will experience rate of change of flux linkages and EMF gets induced across the conductor. If you come across the statement again, a conductor, that means if I am taking a conductor, obviously it is having some length L, okay, which is moving with some velocity. Obviously the conductor is moving means it is having some velocity V, is placed in a time invariant magnetic field having some flux density B. Okay, we will use the symbol B to represent flux density. Again I am repeating, whenever a conductor having some length L is moving with a velocity V which is placed in a time invariant magnetic field B, then the conductor will experience a change in flux linkages and EMF gets induced across the conductor. And the magnitude of that induced EMF will be equal to BLV sine theta. Here you know B flux means flux density, L is nothing but length of the conductor, V is nothing but velocity of the conductor. And here theta is nothing but the angle between the moment of the conductor as well as direction of flux lines. That means it is the angle between V and B. Okay, this is the basic principle behind the operation of electrical generator. Now, why we are adopting this particular principle for a electrical generator? What is the reason why we are adopting this? Now, if you again go through this particular formula clearly, here can I say my conductor is moving or stationary? Of course, my conductor is moving. Now, if you want to move a conductor from one point to another point, obviously I need to spend some mechanical energy. That means in our generators, generally we are using turbines to rotate the conductors, and that means indirectly we are going to spend mechanical energy. So, I can say that we are giving mechanical energy in order to rotate the conductors. So whatever the mechanical energy which we are supplying to rotate the conductors is finally converting in electrical energy in the form of electrical energy, and that is in the form of EMF. Okay, so the given mechanical energy which is used to rotate the conductors is converting as electrical form of energy in the form of EMF. So that means, can I say, is it a generating principle? Yes, because we are converting mechanical energy to equivalent electrical energy. And is it in the presence of magnetic field or without the presence of magnetic field? It is in the presence of magnetic field. Now, if magnetic field is absent, for suppose if magnetic field is absent, B equal to 0, then what will happen to the EMF? EMF becomes equal to 0. Even though my conductor is moving, you cannot able to get EMF across the conductor because there is no magnetic field. So, for the production of electrical energy, there must be a presence of magnetic field will be available. So, this is the basic idea about electrical generator. Now, once if you understand this, let us try to move on to what is meant by an electrical motor. If you are taking an electrical motor, I can say again, an electrical motor is a machine which is used to convert electrical form of energy into its equivalent mechanical form of energy. Again, the medium which is helpful to convert this electrical form of energy into its equivalent mechanical form of energy is nothing but my magnetic medium or magnetic field. This is about the basic idea about electrical motor. Now, once if you understand what is meant by a motor, now we will see what is the basic principle behind the operation of this motor. So generally the motor is working on the principle of Lorentz force equation. Now what is meant by Lorentz force equation? According to it, whenever a current carrying conductor placed in magnetic field, it will experiences force on it. Again I am repeating, whenever a current carrying conductor placed in magnetic field, it will experiences force on it. Now, if I am taking conductor, obviously it is having some length L and it is carrying current. Let us assume the current carried by the conductor is I, which is placed in a magnetic field having flux density B. So, whenever a current carrying conductor placed in magnetic field, it will experiences what, guys? It will experiences force on it. Okay, it will experiences force on it. And the magnitude of this force according to this Lorentz force equation is equal to BIL sine theta. Here B is flux density, I is the current carried by the conductor, L is length of the conductor. And here theta is nothing but the angle between the direction of the current and direction of magnetic flux lines, I and B. So now, why we are adopting this Lorentz force equation for the operation of electrical motor? Now if you observe here, are we supplying electrical energy or mechanical energy? Here if you observe, my conductor is carrying current I. The moment if the conductor is carrying current I means I am supplying electrical energy. So my input in this case is electrical energy, and this current carried by the conductor finally converting as force acting on the conductor. That means it is converting as mechanical energy. It is converting as mechanical energy. So the given input electrical energy in the form of current through the conductor is finally converting as mechanical energy in the form of force acting on the conductor. So obviously it is my motoring principle. So once if you understand this electrical generator and electrical motor, in our machines there is one more special device called transformer. Now we will see what is meant by a transformer. So the third one is a transformer. Okay, so the name itself indicates that the transformer is a device which will transfer electrical energy from one electrical circuit to another electrical circuit. So that means if you are taking, I can say a transformer is a device which will transfer electrical energy from one electrical circuit to another electrical circuit in the form of again electrical energy, and again the medium which is helpful for transfer of this electrical energy from one electrical circuit to another electrical circuit is magnetic field or magnetic medium. Okay, magnetic field or magnetic medium. Now what is the basic principle behind the working of this transformer? Again the transformer will works on the principle of Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. According to this Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction, whenever a conductor, a stationary conductor is placed in a time varying magnetic field, then the conductor will experience a change in flux linkages and EMF gets induced across that conductor or coil. Again I am repeating the statement, whenever a conductor or coil is placed in a time varying magnetic field, then the conductor or coil will experience a change in flux linkages and EMF gets induced across that conductor. That is nothing but my Faraday's law. Okay, and here the magnitude of that induced EMF is equal to d phi by dt, and the units are volts per turn. Here small e represents the amount of EMF induced per turn. For suppose if I am assuming the coil is consist of n number of turns which are connected in series, then the total magnitude of induced EMF will be equal to n d phi by dt. Here what is n here? Total number of turns available in the coil which are connected in series, and d phi by dt is nothing but rate of change of flux with respect to time. So this is about the brief idea about transformer. Now if you see these three, okay, whether it is a generator or a motoring machine or a transformer device, whether it is a generating machine or a motoring machine or a transformer device, the medium which is common for all these things is magnetic field. So studying of this magnetic field is very, very important, and we must have to be very thorough with the properties of those particular magnetic field. Now before going to see about the basics of magnetic circuits, first we need to ask ourselves, okay, why magnetic field? Why can't we use electrical field? So that means I will change the question. Why we are using only magnetic field as the medium of conversion in our electrical machines? Why can't we use electrical field as a medium of conversion in our electrical machine? This is one of the engineering services interview question. So why magnetic field? I will briefly explain. I am not going in detail. I will give you a basic idea because already you are aware of this point. Why magnetic field? Why can't we use electrical field? Right? In order to understand this, for suppose, first I will try to see if you are taking a magnetic field, or if you are considering a magnetic field, we'll see what will happen. For suppose if I am taking some magnetic poles, let us assume this is my north pole and this is my south pole, and we know that the flux flows from north to south, so this is my direction of flux flow. And now what I will do is I will place a small conductor inside this particular magnetic field. And for suppose if I allow some current through this particular conductor, let us assume this is dot represents out of the plane, and it is allowing some current I. Now if you observe here, my conductor is carrying current I which is placed inside a magnetic field, and according to Lorentz force equation, there is some force will be acting on this conductor. And to determine the direction of force acting on the conductor, in general we are using Fleming left hand rule. I will talk about this Fleming left hand rule shortly. We will clearly understand how to apply that Fleming left hand rule. But at this point, if you observe, generally the forefinger represents direction of flux lines, and thumb is used to represent the center finger is used to represent the direction of current, whereas my thumb is used to represent the force acting on the conductor. Here my forefinger is in the direction of flux lines. then you can open the center finger, which is in the direction of current. Current is out of the plane. So then my thumb is upward direction or downward direction? Upward direction. So the force acting on the conductor is in this direction. So obviously, can I say, is it a motoring principle or generating principle? Motoring, because we are supplying electrical energy, finally converting in the form of force, which is nothing but mechanical energy. So it is a motoring action. So the same motoring action, that means same force, can be able to generate with the help of even electrical field. By the way, here am I using magnetic field or electrical field to convert this electrical to mechanical energy? I am using magnetic field. But the point is, I can able to generate the force even with the help of electrical field also, even with the help of electrical field. Now, in order to understand how we are going to get a same motoring action with the help of electrical field, I will take a big positive test charge cube. Okay, if you are taking a big positive test charge cube, and we know that electrical field is a divergent field, so my electrical field will diverge from this point, and this is my electrical field. Let us consider this is my electrical field. Now what I will do is, I am going to place, this is my electrical field, I am going to place a small positive test charge in the vicinity of this big charge cube. For suppose if I place a small positive test charge in the vicinity of this particular big charge cube, then what will happen? Obviously, as we know, if you are having two positive test charges which are in the vicinity, then these two positive charge will repel with each other. And obviously this is a small positive test charge. So obviously the force acting on the small positive test charge will be in which direction? In this direction. So the force will be acting in this direction. That means here also what will happen? My electrical energy is converting in the form of force. So the point you need to understand here is, our scientists are telling that with the help of both magnetic field and electrical field, we can able to generate a force. That means designing motoring machine is possible with both magnetic field and electrical field. This is the statement given by the scientists. But we are engineers, we are economists. Always we need to design a machine in an economical manner. That means if some design is possible with economical manner, then only we will manufacture that machine and distribute it to the customers, right? And if the same design is not possible in an economical manner, we are not going to manufacture that machine. Now we will try to understand what are the advantages of magnetic field rather than electrical field, so that I can able to answer this particular question, right? Now if you quickly go through the magnetic field, how to generate a magnetic field? Now in order to generate a magnetic field, if you are considering a magnetic field, in order to generate a magnetic field, one of the beautiful scientists, his name is Oersted, he has given one statement that whenever if current is allowed to flow through any conductor, then around the conductor magnetic flux lines will produces. Okay, so that means, for suppose if I am taking, this is my conductor having some length L, and if I allow some current through this particular conductor having current some I, then around this conductor magnetic flux lines will be produces. Here I have not shown exact directions. Okay, I am simply explaining this statement. So whenever if I allow some current through the conductor, around the conductor magnetic flux lines will be produces. That means the point you need to understand here is, in order to produce magnetic field, what is required? I require current. So with the help of current, I can able to create a magnetic field. Similarly, in order to create electrical field or electric field strength, okay, you require EMF, electromotive force or voltage. Okay, so in order to create a magnetic field, I require a current, and in order to create electrical field, I require a EMF. Now we will try to understand why magnetic field we are using it as the medium of conversion for all electrical machines. In order to understand that, in general, if you are considering most of the rotating machines, okay, the average operating voltage levels of rotating machines in the sense, if you are taking in our household appliances, we are using ceiling fan, we are going to use an induction motor, right? So now if you see the operating voltage of a ceiling fan, if you consider the operating voltage of a ceiling fan around 230 volts, and similarly if you are considering a three-phase induction motor, we know that the operating voltage of three-phase induction motor might be around 440 volts. And if you are taking further high tension motors, on the primary side the voltage will vary around 4 kV to 5.5 kV. And if you are considering some alternator, the operating voltage levels of the alternator will be around 11 kV. And even in India, we are having even 18.2 kV also alternators. We are having 18.2. Now that means if you are taking all these different kind of machines, rotating machines. I am not considering transformer here. If you are considering voltage, operating voltage levels of most of the rotating machines, average I can say, let us consider 15 kV. Okay, let us consider 15 kV. So if you are considering most of the rotating machines, the average operating voltage levels of most of the rotating machines are around varying from 230 to 18.2. I am considering for suppose 15 kV. Now the point you need to understand here is, with this 15 kV of voltages, okay, we cannot able to generate a significant amount of electrical field. So the strength of the electrical field with 15 kV is very less. Now as the strength of the electrical field is very less, for suppose if this strength is very less, obviously the amount of force produced is also very less. So that means if you apply this concept, so the point you need to understand here is, with a small amount of voltage I cannot able to produce more strength of the electrical field. So our strength of the electric field is very less with low voltages. Even with 15 kV also I am saying that the strength of the electrical field is very less. For suppose if you are taking a ceiling fan, in general what is the operating voltage of a ceiling fan? 230 volts, right? Now for suppose if I am designing this ceiling fan with a medium as electrical field, then I can see with 230 volts the strength of the magnetic field developed is very weak. As the strength of the magnetic field developed is very weak, the amount of force produced or torque produced by the ceiling fan is very less. So that means it cannot able to rotate the wings with the required speed. Have you understand this point? So for suppose, no sir, I want to design a ceiling fan, okay, with electrical field only. Then obviously what I have to do, in order to produce significant amount of electrical field, or in order to produce significant amount of force or torque, I require significant amount of EMF. Okay, that means for suppose if I am designing the ceiling fan with, let us consider some 1000 kV. Okay, obviously this 1000 kV is very high voltage. So I am having a significant amount of voltage. So obviously I can able to produce significant amount of electrical field strength. Because of significant amount of electrical field strength, I can able to get significant amount of force or torque. So we can able to achieve the machine ceiling fan. But before, okay, forget about how to design the ceiling fan, forget about the operating characteristics of a ceiling fan. First of all, who is going to switch on the ceiling fan? I can't able to switch on the ceiling fan with this high voltage of 1000 kV, because at high voltages switching transients are more miserable and which will damage the system. So we can't able to dare to even switch on the ceiling fan with these high voltages of 1000 kV. For suppose if I want to design the same system with magnetic field, okay, so suppose let us consider I am considering a small amount of current, because with small voltage I cannot able to produce a significant amount of electrical field. But for suppose if I am taking a magnetic field, let us consider I am considering a current as 1 milliampere. Of course 1 milliampere is not at all a current for our electrical engineers. Okay, so I can say this is a current for electronic engineers who are going to play with the transistors and op amps. Okay, now if you are considering this small amount of current, obviously the strength of the magnetic field developed is also very small. Okay, so obviously if the strength of the magnetic field developed is small, the force produced is also very small. But in order to produce the significant amount of magnetic field or significant amount of force or torque, okay, without increasing this current, I can able to produce the significant amount of magnetic field by simply increasing the number of turns. So that means I can able to develop a significant amount of magnetic field even with a small amount of current by increasing the number of turns of that particular coil. So this is the beauty or advantage of going with, one of the advantage of going with magnetic field. So please make a note of that particular point, why we are using magnetic field as medium of conversion in all rotating machines. First point, if you consider the operating voltage levels of most of the rotating machines, for most of the rotating machines, as operating voltage is varying in between 230 to 18.2 kV, so the strength of the magnetic electrical field developed with these operating voltages is very less, so the force or torque production is very less. Okay, for all, if you are considering for normal operating voltage levels, if you please make a note of this point, for normal operating voltage levels of rotating machines, for normal operating voltage levels of rotating machines, the strength of the magnetic electrical field developed, or force developed is very weak. Whereas with the help of magnetic field, even though the current is small or the magnitude of the current is small, significant amount of magnetic field can be produced by increasing number of turns. I will quickly close this particular topic by explaining one more advantage of going for magnetic field rather than electrical field. Now, if you are taking any rotating machine, we are having a stator as well as we are having a rotor. Okay, so stationary part is called stator and rotating part is called rotor, and in between the stator and rotor you are having air gap. Right? So this air gap I can able to design or set up by using either electrical field or magnetic field. For suppose if I am designing this air gap or set up this particular air gap with the help of electrical field, and we know that for air the dielectric strength of the air in terms of electrical point of view is 30 kV per centimeter. What is the meaning of this dielectric strength is for air 30 kV per centimeter? That means if the voltage across this air is crossing 30 kV per centimeter, then my air will lose voltage blocking capability. That means air becomes electrical conductor rather than insulator. So whenever if the amount of voltage applied across this air is crossing 30 kV per centimeter, then air will lose its voltage blocking capability and it becomes electrical conductor. That means dielectric failure is going to happen because of this strength is increasing. And why I am increasing the strength of the voltage? Because in order to produce significant amount of electrical field strength, I need to give more amount of EMF. With less amount of EMF, I cannot able to produce a significant amount of electrical field strength. So if I try to cross more than 30 kV per centimeter, then definitely dielectric failure is going to happen. But if you set up this air gap with the help of magnetic field, okay, in between stator and rotor, have you heard any time the magnetic flashover is occurred between stator and rotor because of increasing magnetic field strength? We never heard about magnetic flashover, but dielectric failure is going to occur because of this particular thing. And in fact we know that with the help of magnetic field we can able to store, or we can say around 20,000 times more energy density can be maintained in the air gap compared to electrical field. With magnetic field, I can able to say around 20,000 times more energy density can be maintained compared to electrical field. That means we can say that the maximum allowable energy density with magnetic field is very high compared to electrical field. As maximum allowable energy density with magnetic field is very high, for a given volume or power rating, of the machine, we can say that the volume, size and cost of the machine gets reduces with magnetic field compared to electrical field. So because of these two advantages, we are in general going with magnetic field as the medium of conversion compared to electrical field. Okay, so what are the conclusions? First one is we got a point that for normal operating voltage levels of any rotating machine, the strength of the electrical field developed is very weak, so the force developed is also very weak. Whereas even though with electrical field, even though the current is very small, we can able to develop significant amount of magnetic field by increasing the number of turns. This is one of the advantage of going for magnetic field. And the second one is we know that as the strength of the magnetic field is very high compared to electrical field, for a given power rating, the volume, size and cost of the machine gets reduces. As cost of the machine with magnetic field is reducing, because the storage capacity is 20,000 times more energy density can be maintained compared to electrical field in air gap. So I can able to say the volume, size, cost reduces. Because of the reduction of cost, I can go with magnetic field compared to electrical field because I am engineer. So this is about the brief idea about why we are using magnetic field. Now once if you understand these things, now let us try to move on to the basics of magnetic circuits. Basics of magnetic circuits. So this is very important, because in order to understand all the machines you require some sufficient knowledge about the basics of magnetic circuits. So before going to see these magnetic circuits, as I discussed previously, Oersted, one of the beautiful person who has given a statement that whenever if current is allowed to flow through any conductor, then around the conductor magnetic flux lines will produces. If I am taking this is a conductor, and if I allow some current through this conductor, then around the conductor magnetic flux lines will produces. And to determine the direction of these magnetic flux lines, we are going to use right hand thumb rule. We are going to use what, guys? Right hand thumb rule. Now we will try to see how to apply this right hand thumb rule to determine the direction of magnetic flux lines. And in order to understand that, I am going to consider two cases. Case 1 is a single conductor. So that means we will try to understand how to apply this right hand thumb rule for a case of single conductor. Now if you are taking a single conductor, let us consider I am having a single conductor. I may represent the single conductor in this fashion. For suppose if I am representing the single conductor in this fashion, and what I will do, I will allow some current through the conductor, because according to Oersted, if I allow some current, then only magnetic flux lines will produces, right? So now if I am taking this conductor, I am trying to allow the current through this conductor in this fashion. In general, the cross represents into the plane and the dot represents out of the plane. Dot represents out of the plane. Here what I am doing, I am allowing the current into the plane. Whenever if I am allowing the current through the conductor, according to Oersted, magnetic flux lines will produces. To determine the direction of the magnetic flux lines, we have to use right hand thumb rule, and it is a case of single conductor. Whenever if you are dealing with single conductor, in general, you can use thumb to represent direction of current, whereas our remaining 4 fingers of our right hand are used to determine the direction of magnetic flux lines. Okay, are you following? So whenever if you are dealing with a single conductor, use thumb to represent direction of current, whereas 4 fingers of our right hand are used to determine the direction of flux lines. So you can open your right hand, show the thumb towards the direction of current. Here if you see, this is my thumb, it is into the plane, because the current is into the plane. So I am showing thumb, and after that open our 4 fingers and rotate. If you rotate the 4 fingers, how they are rotating? Clockwise or anti-clockwise? They are rotating in clockwise direction. So the direction of flux lines around this particular conductor will be in clockwise direction. So this is how we have to determine the direction of flux lines. Let me take one more case. For suppose if I am taking a conductor and I am trying to allow a current through this conductor out of the plane in this fashion. Now if you according to Oersted, around this conductor magnetic flux lines will produces. Now to determine the direction of flux lines, here first you need to show the thumb. Thumb should be in the direction of current. Here the current is out of the plane. So and you can open the 4 fingers, and how they are moving? Are they moving in clockwise or anti-clockwise? They are moving in anti-clockwise. So around this particular conductor, the direction of flux lines will be in anti-clockwise direction. Now let us consider one more case. Instead of a conductor shown in this fashion, for suppose if I am taking or considering a conductor having some length L in this fashion, and I will allow some current through this conductor or pass current through the conductor in this direction, then in that case also I can simply apply the right hand thumb rule to determine the direction of current. So since it is a single conductor, in order to apply right hand thumb rule to know the direction of flux lines, you have to hold the conductor with the help of thumb towards the direction of current. If I am assuming this is my conductor, I am holding my conductor with my right hand and I will open the thumb towards the direction of current. If I open the thumb towards the direction of current, if you observe here, my 4 fingers below the conductors are into the plane or out of the plane? Into the plane. And above the conductor, my 4 fingers are out of the plane. So that means I can say direction of flux lines here is into the plane flux, and here out of the plane flux. So cross symbol represents into the plane and dot symbol represents out of the plane. So there is no mandatory that the flux lines you have to indicate in a circular fashion or cross or dot. According to the analysis and based on the case to case, I can able to change. Okay, have you understand that point? So this is about how to apply right hand thumb rule for a case of single conductor. Now if you consider a case of group of conductors or a coil, let us consider case 2. It is nothing but a group of conductors or I can say a coil having some number of turns. Coil having some number of turns. Now, whenever if you are taking or considering a group of conductors, in majority of the cases, what we have to do is we need to use four fingers of our right hand are used to determine the direction of current, whereas the thumb of our right hand is used to determine the direction of flux lines. To understand this, let me take, okay, so a group of conductors. Obviously those conductors are coil having some number of turns. I can able to wound in air, or I can able to wound by taking some magnetic material. So what I will do is I am going to take some magnetic core. Let us consider this is my magnetic core, on which I am going to wound the coil having some number of turns n. I have wounded a coil having some number of turns n. Okay. Now what I have to do, according to Oersted, I need to allow some current through this particular coil having some number of turns n. Then obviously what will happen around this conductor, flux lines will produce. Now to determine the direction of those flux lines, okay, first you have to use four fingers of our right hand to represent the direction of current. All of you please focus guys here. So you have to extend the direction of current. Here this particular wire is flowing above the core, so the current will flow in this direction. And obviously this wire is coming below the core, and again this is above the core, so the current direction is in this fashion. Now what you have to do is, in order to determine the direction of flux lines, if I am assuming this is my core, you have to hold the core with your right hand, and these four fingers you have to open in the direction of current on this particular winding which is on core. So here I am holding this particular core with the help of my four fingers in the direction of current. So my thumb is showing direction of flux lines. Is it in the upward direction or downward direction? It is in upward direction. So the direction of flux lines will be in upward direction. And as we know, the flux are closed things. So flux cannot able to exist from this point to this point. Always it is close on its own. Okay, it's a curly field. So obviously I can say the flux will close in this fashion. This is my direction of flux lines. And we know that we have studied in our plus 2 level that if I am taking a bar magnet, okay, if you are taking a bar magnet, always in this bar magnet, inside the bar magnet, the flux will flow. The flux will flow from south to north. Outside the bar magnet, the flux will flow from north to south. Okay, north to south. So that means the moment if I know the direction of flux lines, I can say which part of this magnetic core is acting as which pole and which part of the magnetic core acting as south pole. Right. So as if you observe here, the flux inside this magnetic core is in this direction. So obviously this is acting as a south and this act as a north pole. Have you understand? Let me give one more example so that you can get some idea about how to apply the right hand thumb rule to determine the direction of flux lines. For suppose if I am taking a magnetic core in this fashion. Now I am going to wound the coil in this way. Now can you tell me what is the direction? Let me take the direction of the current in this fashion. Now let us consider this is position 1, this is position 2. Can you tell me at position 1 which pole will be created? Is it north pole or south pole? Can you please answer? Please pause the video and try to apply on your own and tell me is one corresponding to north or south. Right. Now if you observe here, so I need to, here if you observe the wire is coming, first wire is coming below the core or above the core, below the core, and this wire is coming as above the core. So the direction of current here is in this direction. This is very important. Okay. Now once if you know the direction of the current for the winding which is placed on core, then you can use right hand thumb rule. So you have to hold this particular core with the help of four fingers, and those four fingers should show towards the direction of current. So here the direction of current is in this fashion, so my thumb will be in downward direction. So the direction of flux lines will be in this fashion. As flux is a closed path or curly field, so the flux will complete its path in this fashion. And as flux is moving in this direction, so one act as south pole and two act as north pole. So this is how we need to determine the direction of flux lines. And please make a note, one important point, that always we are not going to follow the same thing. Okay, anyway we are completely interchanging these two things according to our convenient while doing the analysis of machines. Okay, so once if you understand these things, now the next one is we will try to move on to the basics of magnetic circuits. This is very important concept. Now we are going to move on to the basics of magnetic circuits. Now so now if you are considering the basics, you will have two things. One is, in order to understand the basics of magnetic circuits, first I will consider electrical circuit, and after that I will consider magnetic circuit. Now if you are considering electrical circuits and magnetic circuits, let me split this page. Now if you are considering electrical circuit, let us consider I have a conductor having some length L. This is my length L, and assume it is having some area of cross section AC. Okay. Now what I am doing is I am connecting this conductor to an EMF. This also called as voltage potential difference. According to your convenience, you can give the notation. Okay. So this is my EMF. Now I am going to consider parallelly the magnetic circuit. Before that, first I will try to explain clearly about this electrical circuit. So first we will discuss about one is Ohm's law. Okay, so what is Ohm's law? So already we know that Ohm's law, at a given temperature, the current flowing through any conductor is directly proportional to the voltage applied across that particular conductor. Again I am repeating, at a given temperature the current flowing through the conductor is directly proportional to the voltage or EMF applied across that particular conductor. Okay, so this is nothing but my Ohm's law. Now what is meant by EMF here? Now we will try to understand what is meant by EMF. So EMF, electromotive force. So as per the definition, electromotive force, it is the amount of force which is used to drive the electrons inside a conductor. So that means if you are taking, so this is my EMF which is used to drive the electrons. For suppose if I am assuming the electrons is moving in this direction, so the direction of current will be, as we know, in the opposite direction. Okay, so that means I can see in simple terminology, EMF is the source behind the production of current inside a electrical circuit or electrical conductor. So what is EMF? It is the source behind the production of current inside a conductor, right? Now whenever if current is passing through any conductor, there is having one property, a physical property of the conductor, that is nothing but resistance. Now what is meant by resistance? If you are taking a resistance, we can say that the resistance is nothing but it is one of the physical property of a conducting material which will oppose the flow of current through it. Okay, so we can say that the resistance is inversely proportional to current. Okay, and we know that my current is directly proportional to EMF. So from this I can say that according to Ohm's law, the current is equal to EMF divided by resistance. EMF divided by resistance. So this is the basic idea about Ohm's law in electrical circuit. The similar kind of Ohm's law we can able to even find in magnetic circuits. Now let us consider I have a magnetic circuit. Let us consider I have a magnetic core of this form. I am considering this is my magnetic core on which I am going to wound a coil having some number of turns N. Having some number of turns N. Now what I am doing is I am going to give a voltage V, and because of this voltage V, current will be existed. As we know, electromotive force is the basic reason behind the production of current. Now as this current I is flowing through number of turns, what will happen is you are going to get one more term called MMF. Okay, here the EMF, electromotive force in electrical circuits, is very similar to magnetomotive force in magnetic circuits. So the first term is MMF. Okay, you must have to remember all the terms which I am going to explain now in this magnetic circuits. What is meant by MMF? Magnetomotive force. So it is the amount of force which is used to drive the flux inside a magnetic core. So that means it is the major okay, MMF is the major thing which is behind the production of flux inside a magnetic core. Okay, EMF is the reason behind the production of current. Similarly, my MMF is the reason behind the production of flux inside a magnetic material or magnetic core. Okay, have you understand this point? And the magnitude of MMF, since it is a magnetomotive force, we are going to use the symbol F to represent MMF. And the magnitude of this MMF is in general depends upon the number of turns which are presented in that particular coil and the magnitude of current flowing through that particular coil. And anyway, as we know the direction of the current in this particular coil, I can use right hand thumb rule to determine the direction of flux lines, and we know that according to right hand thumb rule, so the direction of the flux lines will be in this direction and it will close on its own in this fashion. Okay, so here if you observe, because of applied EMF current is producing. So this is my input and output or response is current. Okay, so current is the response or output because of applied electromotive force, because of applied excitation. Here, can you tell me what is input and what is output? Either because of exciting current I or because of MMF, what is the production quantity or producer quantity flux? So I can say this is my output or response. So flux is nothing but it is a response or output because of applied MMF or because of applied excitation current I. Have you understand? So what is the meaning of magnetomotive force? It is the reason behind the production of flux inside a magnetic material. Okay, and what is meant by flux? It is a response or output because of applied MMF. Okay, and similarly, as electrical conductor is having a physical property called resistance, even the magnetic material is having a physical property called reluctance. Okay, you will have a term called reluctance, and we are going to use the rounded R symbol to represent reluctance. So what do you mean by reluctance? It is a property of a magnetic material which will oppose the flow of flux inside it. Okay, again I am repeating, it is a property of a magnetic material which will oppose the flow of flux inside a magnetic material. So we can say that the reluctance is inversely proportional to flux. So here if you analyze these electrical circuits and magnetic circuits, the EMF in electrical circuits is analogous to MMF in magnetic circuits. The current in electrical circuits is analogous to flux in magnetic circuits, because here because of EMF current is producing, because of MMF flux is producing, and similarly the resistance in electrical circuits is analogous to reluctance in magnetic circuits. And here we got current relation with respect to EMF and resistance as current is equal to EMF divided by resistance. The similar way, if you try to write the expression, in place of current I have to replace with flux, in place of EMF I need to replace with MMF, and in place of resistance I need to replace with reluctance. So the flux is equal to MMF divided by reluctance, and it is very important, you have to remember. And by the way, what are the units of MMF? My MMF magnitude is number of turns into current. So current units are ampere, turns is turn. I can write the units for this one is ampere turns. Ampere turns. Whereas if you are taking the units for flux, this is ampere turns AT, and flux are Weber, units are Webers. And from these reluctance units, reluctance equal to MMF divided by flux. MMF units are ampere turns per flux units are Weber. So the units for reluctance is ampere turns per Weber. So apart from these three, you need to understand two more terminologies. So what are the three terminologies which we have studied in these magnetic circuits so far? One is MMF, magnetomotive force. Second one is flux. Third one is reluctance. Reluctance is the opposition for the flow of flux. So this is about these things. Apart from these three, we need to study two more things. Okay, so I will first write in electrical circuits, that is nothing but current density. The similar term what you are going to find in magnetic circuits, in place of current what you have to replace, you need to replace with flux. Okay, so the next term is flux density. So the symbol what we are using for current density is okay, so current density we are going to represent with a symbol J. So what is the definition of current density? So the meaning of current density is, it is the amount of current flowing through unit cross sectional area of the conductor. Okay, here this is nothing but a conductor, guys. Don't okay, misutilize the term. This is conductor and this is my magnetic core. Okay, in electrical circuits always we have to use the term conductor, whereas in magnetic circuits we are representing with core. Okay, so what is the definition of current density? The current density is nothing but the amount of current passing through unit cross sectional area of the conductor. So mathematically I can represent this current density as the amount of current passing through unit area of cross section of the conductor is nothing but current density. And what are the units for current? Ampere, and area of cross section means per meter square. Ampere per meter square is the unit for current density. Similar term what you are going to find in magnetic circuits is flux density, and the symbol what we are using to represent flux density is B. And what is the definition of flux density? The definition of flux density is very similar to this one. It is the amount of flux flowing through unit cross sectional area of the core material. Okay, the amount of flux flowing through unit cross sectional area of the core material is nothing but flux density. So what are the units for flux? Webers per meter square. Or the other units for flux density, we can call it as even Tesla. Okay, so it is Tesla. We can represent with T. Have you understand this? So this is about flux density. Apart from this, we are having one more last term. That is nothing but first one, electric field intensity. Electric field intensity. We can represent with capital E symbol to represent electric field intensity. What do you mean by electric field intensity? In simple terminology. For suppose if I am taking a conductor having some length 100 centimeters. Let us assume this is a 100 centimeter length. And across this 100 centimeter length of conductor, I am going to apply 200 volts EMF. Now can you tell me per centimeter how much voltage is induced if it is uniformly distributed? I can say per centimeter 200 by 100, that means 2 volts per centimeter is the amount of EMF applied if it is uniformly distributed. That is nothing but my electric field intensity. So what is the definition of electric field intensity? It is the amount of EMF applied per unit length of the conductor. Per unit length of the conductor is nothing but my EMF. Are you following? So the amount of EMF applied across unit length of the conductor is nothing but my electric field intensity. And what are the units? EMF units are volts, length is per meter. Okay, it is per meter. Have you understand? So this is about the brief thing. Whereas the similar term what you are going to find in magnetic circuits is, what is the term which we are going to find in place of electric? Simply replace with magnetic field. So we can say magnetic field intensity. Magnetic field intensity. And what are the units for this magnetic field intensity? We can represent with a symbol H to represent magnetic field intensity. And how to represent? Okay, so what is the definition of magnetic field intensity? You can find in the similar definition, the magnetic field intensity is nothing but in place of EMF we have to replace with MMF. It is the amount of MMF acting per unit length of the core material is nothing but my magnetic field intensity. And what are the units? For MMF, ampere turn, per length is nothing but meter. This is the unit for magnetic field intensity. Once if you thorough with these 5 terms, then definitely you can enjoy the remaining all terms of remaining machines. Okay, so these 5 terms we are going to frequently utilize or use in remaining upcoming machines like transformers, induction DC as well as synchronous machines. Okay, so what are the 5 terms, guys? First one is you need to understand about MMF, magnetomotive force. Second one is flux. Third one is what? Reluctance. Fourth one is magnetic field flux density. Fifth one is magnetic field intensity. So once if you understand this, now we'll try to see the derivation of reluctance, because from last 3 to 4 years we are getting questions on the reluctance. Okay, so now we'll try to see how to obtain the formula for reluctance. Right, so rounded R symbol. Now, if you see, there is one Ampere circuit law which we have studied in electromagnetic field theory. Ampere's circuit law. So, according to this Ampere circuit law, the relation between B and H is equal to B equal to mu into H. Okay, here B is nothing but flux density and H is nothing but magnetic field intensity. Now, what is meant by mu? Mu is nothing but permeability of the magnetic material. Permeability of the magnetic material. So what do you mean by permeability? So the name itself indicates that it is the permission for the flow of flux. Okay, permeability means permission for the flow of flux. Or in general, I can say permeability is nothing but it is the ability for the formation or flow of flux inside a magnetic core. Again, I am repeating, permeability is nothing but the ability of the magnetic material for the flow of flux inside that magnetic material. So that means if I am saying a magnetic material is having high permeability, it will allow more amount of flux lines through it. Or if I am saying my magnetic material is having less permeability, it will allow less amount of flux lines through it. That is the meaning of permeability. Okay, so this permeability formula I can write equal to mu naught into mu r, mu equal to mu naught into mu r. So where mu naught is called as permeability of free space or air, permeability of free space, or in simple terms I can say permeability of air, and it is having a standard value. Okay, so the value of mu naught equal to 4 pi into 10 power minus 7 Henry per meter. mu naught equal to 4 pi into 10 power minus 7 Henry per meter. Now if you observe, can I say 4 pi into 10 power minus 7 is a finite value or infinite value? It is a finite value. So what is the meaning of this? That means even air will also allow the flow of flux through it. Okay, even air will also allow the flow of flux through it. But is it a small value or large value? 10 power minus 7 is a very small value. That means it won't able to allow more amount of flux lines through it. Okay, but it will allow the flow of flux lines through it. Okay, so that means there are no magnetic insulators available. Whereas we find electrical insulators, but you don't find magnetic insulators. Even this air also will allow small amount of flux through it, because if you observe mu naught, it is having finite value. Okay. Now, what is the meaning of last mu r? Mu r is nothing but relative permeability of the magnetic material with which core is formed. Okay. What is mu r? Relative permeability of magnetic material. Relative permeability of magnetic material with which core is formed. With which core is formed. Are you following what I am saying? So now what is the meaning of relative permeability of magnetic material? That means for suppose if I am taking some magnetic material whose relative permeability is some 1000. Okay. Then can you tell me what is the total permeability you are going to get? The total permeability is also you are going to get as 1000. What is the meaning of this one? That means I can say my total my permeability of the magnetic material is 1000 times compared to the permeability of the air. Okay, that means I can say if air allows one flux lines through it, then I can say my magnetic material will allow 1000 flux lines through it. Are you following? Okay, if my air will allow one flux lines through it, and if I am saying magnetic material is having relative permeability of 1000, so we can say my magnetic material will allow 1000 flux lines through it. That means I am comparing the permeability of magnetic material with respect to what? With respect to air. So it is nothing but a per unit quantity which is unitless. Okay, relative permeability is a unitless quantity which is a per unit quantity. That means we are comparing the magnetic material's permeability with respect to the base as air. Okay, with respect to the base as air. So that is the meaning of relative permeability. So once if you understand this, let me try to see the formula for reluctance. Now if you see the formula for reluctance, as we know from Ampere circuit law, B equal to mu h, and in place of mu I can able to replace as mu naught into mu r into h, and we know that flux density is nothing but flux per unit area of cross section of the core equal to mu naught mu r into h. H is nothing but mmf divided by length of the core, and I can replace flux by AC is equal to mu naught mu r. mmf is n into I divided by LC. Now we will take AC to the right hand side. So if I take AC to the right hand side, flux becomes equal to what you are going to get, mu naught mu r into AC into Ni divided by LC. Now what I will do is I am going to take this mu naught mu r into AC to the denominator. If I take that, what you are going to get, flux equal to Ni divided by LC divided by mu naught mu r into AC. Now let us assume this is equation 2. If you compare this equation 2 with equation 1, what is equation 1? Flux equal to mmf divided by reluctance. So if you compare this equation 2 with equation 1, so what is equation 1? Flux equal to mmf n into I divided by reluctance. This is my equation 1 what I have written. If you compare these two, can you tell me what is the formula for reluctance we are going to get? So the formula for reluctance is length of the core divided by mu naught mu r into area of cross section of the core, or I can say length of the core divided by mu into area of cross section. So this is one of the very important formula which we have to remember to solve the questions related to the reluctance. Now we will try to see how to calculate this particular reluctance. How to calculate this particular reluctance. So in order to calculate the reluctance, let us consider I have a magnetic core. Okay, let us assume I have a square core. Right. So let us consider this is my magnetic core, which is of the shape. Let us consider it is a square. Okay. So on which what way I am doing is I am placing one coil having some number of turns n, and I am going to give the excitation to this voltage so that it will produce a current, and because of this current which is flowing, I am going to get magnetic flux lines. And according to right hand thumb rule, we can say the direction of flux lines will be in this direction. Right, this is what we have studied already. Now how to calculate the resistance, and if you see the formula for reluctance, what is the formula for reluctance? Length of the core divided by mu into area of cross section, right? So here, for suppose if I am indicating this as 10 centimeters, or if I am considering this as 10, and inner side I am considering as 8 centimeters, then can I consider length of the core as okay, so this length I need to consider, or this length? Don't consider, never consider either outer side length of the core or inner side length of the core. You have to consider the mean length of the core. Okay, here LC is nothing but mean length of the core, or simply I can say mean length of core is nothing but the length of the flux path. Even I can consider as the length of the flux path. We can consider as length of the flux path. This is very, very important. Okay, for suppose if I am saying this length is 10 centimeters, and if I am saying this length is also 10 centimeters, if I am asking you to tell me what is the total length of the core or length of the flux path, don't say this is 10, 10, 10, 10. 4 times 10 is not correct. Whereas even don't consider the inside the length of the core, inner length of the core don't consider, or either inner length of the core or outer length of the core. You have to consider the mean length or average length. So can you tell me what is the average length from these dimensions? I can say this average length, midpoint from here to here, this length is 10 plus 8 by 2, you are going to get 9 centimeters. So the total length of the core in this example becomes 4 times 9 centimeters, 9 into 10 power minus 2. Have you understand? This is how we have to calculate the reluctance, okay, while calculating the length. So anyway, mu will be obtained by mu naught into mu r. They will give you the data of mu r, what kind of magnetic material they have used, with what is the value of relative permeability, and they will mention area of cross section of the core. Okay, so for suppose rather than this magnetic core structure, for suppose if I am taking a core structure of this form, let us consider this is my core structure, and I am saying that the outer diameter circle is having a diameter of 100 centimeters, and inside inner circle is having a diameter of, let us assume, some 90 centimeters. Okay, 90 centimeters. Now I am going to wound the winding on this particular core in this fashion. Let us consider I have wounded a coil having some number of turns in this fashion, and I have allowed the current through this coil in this direction. So obviously the current direction will be in this fashion. Yes or no? Right, this is my direction. So now if you apply right hand thumb rule, so the direction of flux lines around this particular core will be in this direction. This is my direction of flux lines, magnetic flux lines, right? Now while calculating reluctance, forget about okay, for suppose I have given mu value, mu naught mu r value AC. Now my main intention is how to calculate the mean length of the core. As I said, mean length of the core is nothing but length of the flux path. That means you need to calculate this length. This length of the flux path is, it is a circle, right? So the length of the flux path is nothing but the perimeter of the circle. Okay, if I want to calculate the perimeter of the circle, so what is the formula for perimeter of the circle, guys? The perimeter of the circle is pi into d, or 2 pi, or whatever it may be. But here d is nothing, can I say the outer diameter or inner diameter or the mean diameter I have to consider? Here I need to consider the mean diameter. That means I need to consider the average of these two. So I can say outer diameter is 100 centimeters, inner diameter is 90. So the mean diameter becomes, you are going to get 95 centimeters. So the length of this core or length of the flux path while doing the calculations of reluctance for this structure is, you are going to get pi into 95 centimeters. Have you understand? So this is how we need to calculate the reluctance of a particular magnetic core. So with this we are done with the basics of magnetic circuits. Okay, so you need to remember total 6 terms now. What are the 6 terms? One is MMF, second one is flux, third one is reluctance, fourth one is flux density, fifth one is magnetic field intensity, sixth one is permeability. So these are the 6 terms which we have to keep in our mind till the completion of our electrical machines. Now what we will do is we will try to solve some questions based on these reluctance calculations. Right. So we'll solve this question. So first we will try to read the question. A steel ring has a gross cross-sectional area of 40 cm square, has a mean diameter of 8 cm. The relative permeability of the material is 800. Determine the current required in a coil of 100 turns in order to produce a flux of 1.2 milliwebers in the ring. Okay, so that means, for suppose if I draw diagrammatically, for suppose if I am assuming this is my steel ring as a gross cross sectional area of 40 centimeters square. So that means, let us assume this is having area of cross section of 40 centimeters square and a mean diameter of 8 centimeters. That means from midpoint to midpoint, this length they are saying that 8 centimeters is the mean diameter. The relative permeability of the material, so that means they have given the relative permeability mu r value equal to 800. Determine the current required in a coil which is having 100 turns. That means I am going to wound a coil and let us assume these are having 100 turns. In order to produce a flux of 1.2 milliwebers. That means if I allow some current I through this particular coil, then it will create a flux of 0.12 milliwebers or 1.2 milliwebers. How much is the amount of current we have to supply in order to create a flux of 1.2 milliwebers is the question what we need to calculate. Right. Now how to solve this question? In order to solve, okay, so as we know the formula for flux, we have derived the formula for flux as MMF. MMF is number of turns into current divided by reluctance. From the given data, I know the number of turns which is equal to 100 and I know the flux value 1.2 milliwebers. I need to calculate current. If I know reluctance, I can able to calculate current. For calculating reluctance, we are already aware of the formula for reluctance. Now what is the formula for reluctance? Length of the mean length of the flux path divided by length of the core or mean length of the core divided by mu naught mu r into area of cross section. So here length means this is a steel ring, right? So that means it is in the circular fashion. So my flux, if I am saying this flux will travel in this fashion. So I need to calculate the mean length of this total flux path, which is nothing but 2 pi r, perimeter of the circle, right? So you are going to get 2 pi r, 2 pi into, what is the diameter here? They have given 8 centimeters, or I can use, okay, pi d also. That is up to you, okay? So 2 pi r or pi d. So if I am using pi d, so let me erase this, okay? So pi into d. D is diameter, mean diameter, 8 into 10 power minus 2 divided by mu naught. What is the value of mu naught? You are going to get 4 pi into 10 power minus 7 into relative permeability mu r. Okay, so the value of relative permeability they have given in the data 800 into area of cross section they have mentioned 40 centimeters square, 40 into 10 power minus 4. Right? Now if I do the calculations, you will get the value of reluctance. So after doing the calculations, if I do the simplifications, I am directly giving the answer for you. Okay, so you can do the simplification. If you are getting a different answer, you can please make a note of those points. Okay, so but the procedure whatever we are discussing is correct. Okay, let me move slightly further. Yeah, great. So here if you do the simplification, the reluctance value you are going to get 12,500 ampere turn per Weber. Now you can substitute this reluctance in this formula. What is the value of flux they have given? The value of flux is 1.2 milliwebers. 1.2 into 10 power minus 3 is equal to number of turns are 100 into current we need to calculate divided by reluctance. Just now we got 12,500. So from here I can able to get the value of current required to get a flux of 1.2 milliwebers. So if I do the simplification, the current you are going to get as 1.5 amperes. So in this particular question, the only thing you need to understand here is for the steel ring, if you want to calculate length of the flux path or mean length of the core, you need to use pi into d. Okay, I hope you understand this question. Let me move on to the next one. Right. So first try to read the question properly. So if you read the question properly, a toroid has n number of turns excited with a current of I amperes and producing a flux density of B Tesla. If all physical dimensions are doubled, keeping number of turns as constant, then determine the current required to keep the flux density as constant. Okay, right. So here the major parameter which we have to maintain is flux density. We know that the flux density is nothing but flux per unit area of cross section of the core. Right. So what is the formula for flux? MMF divided by reluctance. MMF is number of turns into current divided by reluctance. And we know that even the formula for reluctance also, Ni divided by area of cross section into reluctance. Reluctance is length of the flux path or length of the core divided by mu naught mu r into area of cross section of the core. So here area of cross section AC and AC will get cancelled with each other, right? This AC will get cancelled. Now if you do the simplification, right? So my B becomes equal to what you are going to get, guys? Ni into mu divided by LC, right? Here, have they given anything regarding change in the number of turns? Here they mention that keeping the number of turns as constant. So my N is constant here. And have they mentioned anything regarding change in the magnetic material? No. So if there is no change in the magnetic material, my mu is also constant, right? And what about the length? Okay, so here if you observe current, okay, so here my exciting current is I, and we have to maintain the flux density as constant. So the major parameter which we have to maintain is constant. V has to be kept constant, and in the data they have mentioned number of turns is constant, and without mentioning there is no change in flux, I am assuming mu is constant. From here I can say that I is directly proportional to length of the flux path or length of the core. In the data they mentioned that, okay, all the physical dimensions are doubled. That means if the length is increased or doubled by 2 times, then what will happen to the current also gets doubled. Okay, so can you tell me what is the new value of the current, guys? The new value of the current will be equal to 2 times the old value. So the answer is 2i for this particular question. So these category of questions we are not going to expect in GATE point of view, whereas for engineering services as well as some of the state government jobs or PSU jobs, those who are having written tests, these category of questions you can expect. Okay, right. So once if you understand, let me move on to the next one. Yes. Yeah. So this is under a very simple question based on what we have studied in magnetic circuits. So a magnetic circuit has a cast steel is shown in the figure. The exciting coil has 500 turns. That means this particular coil has 500 turns. That means they have given the number of turns of this coil as 500. Okay, and produces a flux of 1 milliweber. So the amount of flux that is produced because of exciting the winding is 1 milliweber in the central limb. Determine the exciting current if relative permeability is 5000. So they have given the value of mu r. Okay, so now if you observe here, so what will happen? I am trying to allow the current. You need to calculate this current in order to produce a flux of 1 milliweber. Okay, so whatever this flux which is created, okay, so this flux will be produced in this fashion. This is the direction of the current. So if you apply right hand thumb rule, so the direction of the flux will be in this fashion. Okay, so now they have given the relative permeability as 5000. So you need to determine the total exciting current in order to produce a flux of 1 milliweber. Now, what is the basic formula for flux? Flux is equal to MMF divided by reluctance. MMF formula is number of turns into current divided by the total reluctance offered by this magnetic core. RT means total reluctance. I know the number of turns 500. I need to calculate current. I know the information of flux. If I can able to calculate the total reluctance, I am done with the question. Am I correct? Now, how to calculate the total reluctance for this magnetic circuit? Now, if you clearly focus here, after exciting or passing the current through these 500 turns, then if you apply right hand thumb rule, my flux will flow. Let us assume the flux produced in the middle limb is, these vertical portions we can call it as limbs anyways. So the flux produced is 5. Now this flux will split and it will go, some amount of flux will flow through this path and some amount of flux will flow through this path, and it will complete the path in this manner. And this will complete the path in this manner, and finally again the flux will enter here. Now, if you observe here, they mentioned that the relative permeability is 5000. So that means this entire core is designed with a magnetic material which is having relative permeability of 5000. Now, if you observe the length of the flux path through this path and length of the flux path in this direction, can you tell me what is the length of this flux path? 10 centimeters. This height is 20, and again this length is 10. So 10 plus 20 plus 10. So you are going to get 40 in this direction. Again 10 plus 20 plus 10, 40 in this direction. And in the central limb, this length is 20 centimeters. So if you visualize this magnetic circuit as a equivalent electrical circuit, can you tell me how can I draw? So here, first, what is the reason behind the production of flux? In magnetic circuits, we have seen MMF is the reason behind the production of magnetic flux, right? MMF is analogous to EMF in electrical circuits. So I am going to represent, let us assume this is plus minus MMF, okay, which is equal to N into I. Because of this MMF, flux is created. This flux will have offered by a resistance or reluctance. In electrical terminology, we will use resistance. Magnetic circuits, we will use reluctance. So this is reluctance offered by the central limb. I can write as RC, and this flux is also offered by reluctance in this left hand side. I can write as RL. In the right hand side, RR. Now if you want to calculate current from here is equal to flux into total reluctance divided by number of turns. I need to calculate total reluctance. Total reluctance is nothing but I need to calculate the equivalent resistance from here. How to calculate the resistance? First I will calculate the resistance of the left side portion of this circuit, and I can calculate the reluctance on the right side portion. Okay, and after that I will calculate the resistance of this central part, and I will do the simplification. Now first I will try to calculate the resistance on the left hand side. Right, so what is the, sorry, not resistance, reluctance. In fact, what is the formula for reluctance? Reluctance is equal to length of the flux path. So what is the length of this flux path from here to here? I can say the length of the flux path from here to here is 10 plus 20, 30 plus 10, 40 centimeters. 40 into 10 power minus 2 divided by mu naught, 4 pi into 10 power minus 7 into relative permeability. How much they have given? In the question they mentioned that the relative permeability is 5000 into area of cross section. So they are having a uniform area of cross section. I think have they mentioned the area of cross section? So the exciting 500, flux is here, and exciting current. So let me assume that the area of cross section is 10 centimeter square. Okay, in fact they will give in the question. Okay, I forgot to mention that. So you are going to get the area of cross section as 10 centimeter square. Okay, they will give in the question, don't worry. So this I can write as 10 into 10 power minus 4, because centimeter square, if you convert into SI units, you will get this reluctance of the left hand side portion. Okay, similarly you can try to calculate the reluctance in the right hand side portion also. So now can you tell me the reluctance in the right hand side is also very equal to reluctance in the left hand side? Why? Because if you observe in the right hand side portion, the reluctance offered, length is again 10 plus 20, 30 plus 10, 40 divided by mu naught, mu r, and area of cross section, all are same. So the reluctance offered by the right hand side portion and left hand side portion both are equal. Let me try to move slightly further upward direction. Okay, so that data is not required for us. Yes, yeah. So now if you do the simplification from this one, okay, now if you observe here, I can try to calculate even the reluctance of the central limb. Okay, so if you try to calculate the reluctance of the central limb, what you are going to get? If you try to calculate, so the length of the central limb, what is the length of the flux path in the central limb? 20 centimeters, 20 into 10 power minus 2 divided by mu naught, mu r anyway remains same, 4 pi into 10 power minus 7 into 5000 into area of cross section they have given 10 into 10 power minus 4. Okay, so now I can able to calculate the overall or total reluctance. Okay, so here these two resistances are anyway, reluctances or resistance both are connected in parallel. So I can able to redraw this one in this fashion. This is my MMF and this is the reluctance offered by the central limb, and since they are connected in parallel, I can able to calculate the equivalent reluctance. Can you tell me what is the equivalent reluctance? The equivalent reluctance is, let us assume this is R. Then I can say as both these reluctances are same which are connected in parallel, you are going to get the reluctance as R by 2. Okay, R by 2. So now can you tell me what is the total reluctance, guys? The total reluctance is reluctance offered by the central portion or central limb plus R by 2. Plus R by 2. Now if you do the simplification, the total reluctance you are going to get in this particular question, okay, after doing the simplification as 63662. So what you will do, you can calculate this value and add it to, after taking off of this particular value, add it to this RC, you will get 63662, okay, ampere turns per Weber. Right, now once if I get total reluctance, I can easily calculate what is my requirement current. So now I will try to see how to calculate the current, right? So what is the value of current is equal to flux into total reluctance. What is the value of flux they have mentioned? So if you try to see in the given data, sorry for this, yeah, flux they have given in 1 milliwebers and number of turns is 500. So let me move again further upward direction. Yes, relax. So now we are going to get flux is 1 milliweber into total reluctance is 63662 divided by total number of turns they have mentioned as 500. Do the simplification, then you will get the exciting current that is required to produce this quantity. So after doing the simplification, you are going to get the current as 0.127 amperes. Okay, so this is how we need to do the simplification for this question. I hope you understand this. This is, I can call it as a parallel magnetic circuit. Why? Because the reluctance offered by this left hand side portion and right hand side portion both are same. That means the amount of flux flowing through this part and the amount of flux flowing through this part is both are same. So since they are having same lengths, I can say this total flux will be split into two halves, 5/2 and 5/2. So it is a parallel magnetic circuit. Okay, right. So let me move on to the next question. Yes. So this first we will try to read the question. A magnetic circuit shown here as a cross sectional area of 10 centimeters square, and the coil consists of how many turns? 500 turns. The exciting current in the coil is 6 amperes. So this current they have mentioned 6 ampere. Relative permeability 1000. The ratio of flux produced without air gap to with air gap. This is one of the interesting question, and you must have to understand these category of questions in the exams. Okay. So I will tell you after finishing of this particular question, I will give you one more question which was recently asked in the GATE exam. Right. Let me first try to solve this particular question. Yeah. So a magnetic circuit shown as a cross sectional area. So area of cross section they have given as 10 centimeters square. First I will try to write the data. Okay. And the coil consists of how many turns? 500 turns. They have mentioned this as 500. And the exciting current in the coil is how much? 6 amperes they have mentioned. And relative permeability 1000 they have given. You need to determine the ratio of flux produced without air gap to with air gap. Okay. So that means here this is air gap length. How much they have mentioned? The air gap length they have mentioned as 2 centimeters. Now all of you please focus. So the moment if the current starts flowing through this particular winding, then what will happen? Flux will generate, and according to right hand thumb rule, so as the current is in this direction, so my flux will be in this upward direction. So this flux will be linking in this fashion. Now if you clearly focus here, the flux is flowing through magnetic material core and even through air gap. And we know that there is no magnetic insulators. Even in fact, the air medium will also allow a small amount of flux. Anyways, here we are assuming that, okay, in all these problems, we are assuming that there is no leakage flux and there is no fringing flux. And regarding leakage and fringing flux, trust me, we will discuss in the upcoming classes. Now, I can say the flux is flowing through the core material as well as flux is flowing through the air gap. So that means you need to understand that the reluctance, in order to flow the flux, my flux is experienced by the reluctance offered by the core material as well as reluctance offered by the air gap. Okay. So first here, if you see what we need to calculate in this question, we need to determine the ratio of flux produced without air gap. So that means imagine this is a continuous magnetic circuit. You don't have any air gap of even these 2 centimeters. Then in that case, try to calculate. Okay, so flux, what we need to calculate? Ratio of flux produced without air gap. So that means what is the formula for flux, guys? MMF divided by reluctance, right? Here, whether air gap is presented or without air gap, is there any change in the number of turns? No. Whether air gap is presented or without air gap also, I am going to supply the same amount of current, 6 amperes. That means Ni becomes constant in both the cases, with air gap and without air gap. So from here, I can say my flux is inversely proportional to reluctance. So that means we need to calculate ratio of flux produced without air gap to flux produced with air gap. Without air gap to with air gap is equal to reluctance offered with air gap divided by reluctance offered without air gap. Are you following what I am conveying? So because my flux is inversely proportional to what? Reluctance. Now what I will do is I will try to calculate the reluctance without air gap and with air gap and take the ratio of those two. Then you will get the answer for this question. Right. Let me move slightly upward direction so we can able to concentrate. Right. Yeah, relax. Now first we need to calculate reluctance without air gap. So that means imagine there is no air gap here. And calculate the reluctance without air gap. So if I am imagine there is no air gap, I can say my flux is experienced by the reluctance of only core material, because without air gap only medium which is presented for the flow of flux is magnetic core material. Now without air gap, can you tell me what is the length, mean length of the flux path or length of the flux path? I can say this height is 20 and this length is 10. And here this is obviously, if this is 10, obviously this is also 10. If this is 20, obviously this height is also 20. So the total length of this flux path, how much you are going to get? 10 plus 20, 30 plus 10, 40 plus 20, 60 centimeters. So you are going to get 60 into 10 power minus 2 divided by mu naught, 4 pi into 10 power minus 7 into relative permeability. They have mentioned in the question. What is the relative permeability of the magnetic material? They have mentioned 1000 into area of cross section of the core. and they mention the area of cross section of the core is 10 centimeters square, 10 into 10 power minus 4. If you do the simplification, you are going to get the reluctance without air gap. Okay, already I have calculated. If you see the reluctance without air gap, you can again cross verify. Okay, so 477464.83. Okay, now we will try to calculate the reluctance with air gap. Yeah, now if you want to calculate the reluctance with air gap, my flux is experienced by, that means the moment if I am assuming that my core is having some reluctance, sorry, my core is having some air gap, then that moment onwards you need to imagine that my flux is offered by or experienced by the reluctance offered by the core and reluctance offered by the air gap. Okay, so that means the total reluctance with air gap is equal to the reluctance offered by the core material plus reluctance offered by the air gap is nothing but my total reluctance with air gap. Are you following what I am saying? Because the same amount of flux is flowing through the core and air gap. Okay, same amount of flux is flowing through the core and air gap. So I can say this is a series magnetic circuit. That means this is reluctance of the core, and here you will get reluctance of air gap, which are connected in series. So I can add both the reluctances in order to get the reluctance with air gap. Right. Now I will try to calculate reluctance offered by the core. So can I say what is the length of the flux path within the core material? I need to exclude how many centimeters? 2 centimeters out of how much? 60. Because this total height is 20 plus 20, 40 plus 10, 50 plus 10, 60. Out of that, 2 centimeters is the air gap length. So if you subtract that, you are going to get 58 into 10 power minus 2 divided by mu naught, 4 pi into 10 power minus 7. Mu r value they have given in the question 1000 into area of cross section of the core material 10 centimeters square, 10 into 10 power minus 4. This is reluctance offered by whom? Core. Okay, let me move towards the left hand side so that we have some space to solve the question. Right, plus reluctance offered by air gap. Now we need to calculate reluctance offered by air gap. So what is the length of the air gap? Length of the flux path in the air gap 2 centimeters, 2 into 10 power minus 4. Mu naught anyway 4 pi into 10 power minus 7. Can you tell me what is the relative permeability? Always relative permeability means with respect to air we need to see the relative permeability. So here air with respect to air. So what is the relative permeability of the air? Always 1 into area of cross section. You may think that the area of cross section which is mentioned in the question is with respect to the core cross sectional area. But can I use the same core cross sectional area even for the air gap? Yes, provided if you are assuming that there is no leakage and fringing. If there is no fringing flux, then area of cross section of the flux in the air gap is equal to area of cross section of the flux in the core. Okay, so that means I can able to choose the same area of cross section of the core material 10 into 10 power minus 4. So if you do the simplification, then finally you are going to get the reluctance with the air gap as 16377,643.64. Okay. Now once if I get reluctance with air gap and without air gap, I can take the ratio of these two, so that finally I am going to get flux without air gap to flux with air gap. You are going to get 34.3 is the answer for this particular question. Okay. Now what is the observation we are getting from this particular question? The observation what we are getting from this question is, if you clearly see here, without air gap, can you tell me what is the reluctance offered for the flow of flux by the core material? This some value. Now by introducing how much air gap I have introduced? Only 2 centimeters out of 60 centimeters. If I am introducing a small air gap length of 2 centimeters, what will happen to the overall reluctance with air gap? Can I say the reluctance with air gap is more or without air gap is more? Reluctance with air gap is nearly 5 to 6 times more compared to without air gap. That means by introducing small air gap length, the overall reluctance offered for the flow of flux increases to a drastic high value. If overall reluctance offered by this magnetic material and air gap is increases to a very large value, then what will happen to the flux production? The amount of flux or flux density produced will decreases. Here if you observe here, I can say flux without air gap is 34 times flux with air gap. Okay, that means without air gap I am getting more amount of magnitude of flux, or with air gap I am getting more magnitude of flux. Without air gap. Without air gap, in fact if you see this particular question, without air gap the amount of flux produced is 34 times more compared to with air gap. So that is the reason while designing specifically these kind of magnetic circuits, I can say a transformer, okay, always we have to design the transformer without having any air gaps. Okay, so if there is a presence of air gap, if you are taking a rotating machine, obviously you will have two things. One is two objects, one is stator and second one is rotor. In between stator and rotor you will have air gap. Okay, so at this instant, at this moment, I am saying that by introducing a small air gap length, the overall reluctance increases, so the magnitude of flux produced will decreases. Okay, that means if I want to produce a good amount of flux, or if you want to reduce the overall reluctance offered for the flow of flux, do I need to maintain a minimum air gap length or maximum air gap length? We have to maintain a small or minimum air gap length as possible. Okay, I hope you are clear with this particular question. Now we will try to move on to the next question, which was asked recently in the previous gate. Okay, so this was a recent previous gate question which was asked in gate 2019 for 2 marks. Let me try to read the question first. Okay, this is a very similar question which we have solved previously. What you will do is, after reading this question, please pause the video and try to solve the question and tell me the answer. Okay, or cross verify whether you are going to get the same answer or not. Let me read the question. The magnetic circuit shown below, okay, this is the magnetic circuit, in fact, I will tell you, okay, as uniform cross-sectional area. So let me compress this. Yeah. I hope it is visible to you now. Yes, I will slightly move towards this side. Yes, relax. Yeah, come back here. So the magnetic circuit shown below as uniform cross-sectional area and air gap of 0.2 centimeters. So that means this core is having uniform cross-sectional area. They have not given the area of cross-section, and air gap of 0.2 centimeters, and that means this air gap length is 0.2 centimeters. The mean path length of the core, entire path length of the core, the mean path length of the core in the sense, okay, so if you are taking this one, total mean length of the path of the core is 40 centimeters. Assume that leakage and fringing fluxes are negligible. Then the core relative permeability is assumed to be infinite. Okay, if the core relative permeability is infinite, the magnetic flux density computed in the air gap is how much? 1 Tesla. With the same ampere turns, if core relative permeability is assumed to be 1000, then what is the flux density calculated in the air gap? Okay, so the point you need to understand here is the flux density is equal to 1 Tesla if relative permeability is how much? Infinity. Whereas you need to calculate the flux density if relative permeability is 1000. Okay, so can you tell me what is the formula for flux density? Flux per area of cross section. Here they mentioned that the uniform cross sectional area and there is no fringing and leakage flux. So area of cross section of this core material is same as the area of cross section of this air gap. So my area of cross section will be remain same. So my flux density is directly proportional to flux. What is the formula for flux? Flux equal to MMF. MMF is Ni divided by reluctance. Yes or no? Right. So here area of cross section is remains same. And in the question they mentioned that with same ampere turns. Ampere turns is nothing but Ni is same. Then I can say my B is inversely proportional to reluctance or directly proportional to reluctance. Inversely proportional to reluctance. So that means I need to calculate the flux density with a relative permeability of 1000. Okay, you need to calculate flux with a relative permeability of 1000 is equal to, flux density with relative permeability of exactly infinity equal to what you are going to get? Reluctance, or else I will try to write. Yeah, let me erase this. Yeah. So if you are taking B is inversely proportional to reluctance. Okay, so with the relative permeability of infinity, I can assume as flux density is B1. With the new permeability of 1000, I can need to calculate the flux density B2. So that means B2 new value divided by old value B1 equal to reluctance, because it is inversely proportional. So you are going to get R1 by R2. What is R1 here? Reluctance offered for the flow of flux path when relative permeability is how much? Infinity. Whereas R2 is nothing but reluctance offered for the flow of flux path when relative permeability of the magnetic material is 1000. Let us try to see how to solve this particular question. Yes. So let me move. I think this is not required. Okay, till this point. Yes. Yeah. Now we will try to solve this particular question. First I will try to calculate the reluctance with relative permeability of how much? Infinity. I am saying that B1 corresponding to R1. R1 is nothing but reluctance at a relative permeability of infinity. Here, if you observe here, can I say air gap is presented in this question? Yes. If you want to calculate the reluctance with air gap, I need to calculate reluctance offered for the flow of flux by the core material plus reluctance offered by the air gap. Now, can you tell me what is the reluctance offered by the core material? So total mean length of this flux path is how much? 40 centimeters. Out of this, because they have mentioned this is 10 and this is 10. So obviously 10 plus 10, 20 plus 30, 30 plus 10, another 40. Okay. Out of 40, how much is the air gap length? 0.2. So I need to subtract that. So if I do the subtraction, we are going to get 39.8 into 10 power minus 2 divided by mu naught. I am writing as it is. Into relative permeability in this particular case. This is a core material, right? For the core material in the first case, what is the relative permeability? Infinity. Mu naught mu r into area of cross section AC. Okay. Plus reluctance offered by the air gap. What is the air gap length here, guys? 0.2 centimeters, 0.2 into 10 power minus 2 divided by mu naught into what is the relative permeability of the air gap? 1 into area of cross section AC. Okay. So anyway, something by infinity, this value goes to how much? This value goes to 0. Okay. So this is one R1. Now I will try to calculate R2. Okay. In order to calculate R2, let me move towards the left hand side. Yeah. Right. So I will do the similar calculations for R2, guys. So if I do the similar calculation for R2, you are going to get the answer, final answer. R2 will be equal to, so that means R2 corresponding to a relative permeability of how much? 1000. So first length of the flux path, again you are going to get the same. In the core material, 39.8 into 10 power minus 2 divided by mu naught into relative permeability in this case now is how much? Infinity or 1000. You need to consider 1000 into area of cross section AC plus length of this air gap is 0.2 centimeters. So you are going to get 0.2 into 10 power minus 2 divided by mu naught into relative permeability 1 into area of cross section. Okay. Now you know the value of R2, I know the value of R1. Take the ratio of these two things, we will get the answer. Yes or no? Right? So what we have to do, we need to calculate the values of resistances. Okay, sorry, reluctances. So anyway, this is goes to 0. You can calculate this value. You know the value of mu naught. What is the value of mu naught? 4 pi into 10 power minus 7 into area of cross section. There is no need of doing the knowing the area of cross section. Why? Because if you see B2 by B1 equal to what? B2 by B1 equal to R1 by R2. Reluctance R1 divided by reluctance R2. So you can take the ratio of these two things. Okay. So 0.2 into 10 power minus 2 divided by, if you take mu naught into AC as common from these two, those two will get cancelled. So what is the value of R1? R1 is equal to 0.2 into 10 power minus 2 divided by, okay, R2 is how much? R2 is 39.8 into 10 power minus 2 divided by 1000 plus 0.2 into 10 power minus 2. Take the ratio of these two things, then you will get B2 divided by, what is the value of B1? They mentioned that at a relative permeability of infinity, the air gap, magnetic flux density computed in the air gap is how much? 1 Tesla equal to this expression. If you do the simplification, you are going to get 0.834. So the value of B2 is equal to 0.834 Tesla. Okay. So here the point you need to understand is, you need to acquire how to solve the questions, knowledge how to solve the questions with air gap also, because previous gate questions are also framed based on the magnetic core, which consists of air gap. So this is how we need to solve the questions related to magnetic circuits. So in this session, we have discussed about the basic idea of what is meant by electrical generator, electrical motor and transformer, and we made a common observation that the medium which is common for the conversion of energy is magnetic medium. And after that we have seen one of the interview question, why we are using magnetic field, why can't we use electrical field as a medium of conversion from one form of energy to another form, and we got two observations for that. That is one of the interview question, right? What are those two observations if you quickly recollect? First one is we know that okay, with normal operating voltages of any rotating machine, we cannot able to produce a sufficient electrical field, or electric field strength developed will be very weak. Okay, whereas with magnetic field, even though small amount of current is there, I can able to provide or produce significant amount of magnetic field by increasing the number of turns. This is first one. And the second one is, as we know, maximum allowable energy density with magnetic field is very high compared to electrical field. So with for a given power handling capacity, the volume, size and cost of the machine gets reduces. And after that we have seen the basic terminology behind the magnetic circuits. We have seen MMF, magnetomotive force, flux, definition of flux, and followed by reluctance, and we have seen magnetic field intensity, magnetic flux density, as well as permeability. And after that we have seen how to determine the reluctance with the help of some calculations, and we have seen the questions. So with this we are done with the basics of magnetic circuits. In the next session we will try to discuss about Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. So that we will finish the basics and we will enter into the first mission called transformer. Thank you. All the very best.